Every evening at 7:12, the same man crossed the bridge. Clara noticed the pattern on a Tuesday. She had been sitting in her usual place by the bookstore window, pretending to read while watching the river move slowly beneath the old iron bridge outside. The town was small enough that routines revealed themselves easily. The baker opened his shutters at 6, the florist watered the pavement every morning, and every evening, at exactly 7:12, the man appeared. He walked from the eastern side of the bridge, hands tucked into the pockets of a dark coat, moving at the same steady pace each night. Not fast, not slow, just certain. The first time she noticed him, it was because he stopped halfway across. Only briefly. He rested his hands on the railing and looked down at the water below. Then he continued across the bridge and disappeared into the narrow streets beyond the square. The next evening, he did the same thing. 7:12, pause. Hands on the railing, eyes on the river. Clara told herself it meant nothing. People stopped on bridges all the time, but she began noticing other details. The coat was always the same dark wool. His hair shifted slightly in the evening wind before he brushed it back. And each night, after the pause at the center of the bridge, he walked toward the street that passed directly in front of the bookstore. He never looked inside, but Clara found herself watching the door anyway, waiting. The third evening, she stayed later than usual. The bookstore normally closed at 7, but she kept the lights on, pretending to organize a shelf she had already arranged. At 7:12, he crossed the bridge. At 7:13, he passed the bookstore window. And for the briefest moment, his eyes moved. Not toward the books, toward her. Just one glance, quick, curious, gone again. The door never opened. His footsteps faded down the street. Clara stood there long after he had disappeared. The next evening, she left the lights on again. But this time, she wasn't organizing books. She was waiting. The fourth evening, something changed. Clara tried not to watch the clock. She failed. 7:11. She stood behind the counter, pretending to sort receipts, though the same stack had already passed through her hands twice. Outside, the river reflected the first soft glow of the streetlights. 7:12 arrived quietly. The man stepped onto the bridge. Her chest tightened before she could stop it. He walked halfway across, paused, hands on the railing, just like always. But this time, his head turned slightly. Not toward the river, toward the bookstore. Toward the warm light glowing through the window. Clara held her breath. For a moment, he simply stood there, as if deciding something. Then he continued walking. 7:13. His figure passed the bookstore window, and then, for the first time since she had noticed him, the footsteps stopped. Outside the door. Clara froze behind the counter. The small bell above the entrance did not move. Seconds stretched quietly through the room, long enough for her to hear the faint hum of the refrigerator behind her. Long enough to wonder if she had imagined the pause. Then the footsteps started again, walking away. Her shoulders relaxed in a quiet rush of disappointment she hadn't expected to feel. The door never opened. That night, she closed the bookstore more slowly than usual. The lights dimmed, the street grew quiet. But the moment at the door stayed with her. The next evening, she almost turned the lights off early. Almost. But when 7:12 approached, the lamps were still glowing across the shelves. The man stepped onto the bridge again. He walked halfway across, and this time he didn't pause at the railing, not even for a second. He kept walking, straight toward the bookstore. Clara's pulse began to race. 7:13. His figure passed the window. His steps slowed, then stopped. The bell above the door rang softly. For the first time since she had begun watching the bridge, he stepped inside. The bell above the bookstore door rang softly. Such a small sound, yet it shifted the entire room. Clara looked up. He stepped inside, slowly, not hesitant, just careful, as if the moment deserved it. Up close, he looked almost exactly as she had imagined. The same dark coat, the same wind-touched hair. But his expression held something she hadn't seen from across the bridge. Uncertainty. Quiet, thoughtful uncertainty. His eyes moved through the bookstore, across the shelves, across the long table near the window, until they reached the counter, until they reached her. For a moment, neither of them moved. Outside, the river continued sliding beneath the bridge. Inside, the bookstore felt perfectly still. Then Clara noticed the second cup of tea sitting beside her, the one she had placed there earlier, without thinking. He noticed it too. His gaze rested on the cup, then returned to her. Something softened in his expression. Not surprise, recognition, as if the quiet ritual of the past weeks had belonged to both of them all along. Slowly, he removed his coat, placed it over the back of the chair. Then he sat down across from her. Clara slid the second cup of tea toward him. He wrapped his hands around it the same way she had watched him hold his coffee every evening on the bridge. The familiarity of the gesture made her smile. The silence between them no longer felt empty. It felt shared. After a moment, his eyes drifted toward the window, toward the bridge outside. And Clara understood something then. He hadn't been stopping there to watch the river. He had been looking toward the bookstore, toward the warm light in the window, toward her. All those evenings, all that quiet waiting, and the entire time they had both been standing at the edge of the same moment, just waiting for someone to move first. Tonight, finally, someone had. And from now on, 7:12 would mean something different. Not the moment he crossed the bridge, but the moment he arrived.
Thank you for listening. I hope this story stayed with you for a little while. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps me bring more stories like this to life. Until the next one, take care, and I'll see you soon.